Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at something a little unusual as far as I'm concerned anyway, but we're looking at an IBM PC compatible computer. This is of course a Commodore machine, and in this case it's a PC20 Mark III or version 3 or whatever that 3 means. But Commodore also, especially Commodore Germany, developed and created a range of PC compatible computers. Commodore in the USA created the Colt, and this is essentially what this machine is. It's a rebranded Colt, but we called it in Europe the Commodore PC20. It's basically an XT clone released in about, as far as I can find out, 1986-87. It is an 8088 machine, but one of the unique features of this machine is that it has variable CPU speed. Well, more on that later. So, why did Commodore create this machine? Well, Commodore were well known for their VIC-20, Commodore 64, and later the Amiga range. But what Commodore wanted to try and do was to create a complete range of merchandise that could be bought to suit every need in the corporate world. So you could buy a Commodore 64 for home and a Commodore PC for the office. And this is where the PC line comes in. Commodore created the PC20 from the PC10. It is pretty much the same machine, but what they did is they added a hard drive. So, looking at this in a little bit more detail, this computer does have some unusual features. There is no power button on this machine. It's just got an on and off on the PSU, so there are no buttons on the front for you to press. All you have is a 360K 5¼ inch floppy disk drive. It came with a hard drive of some unknown size. I think it's about 20 megabyte. The drive unfortunately has read-write errors, and whilst it works sometimes, most of the time it doesn't. But I will endeavour to try and get whatever information is on that drive off at some point. The keyboard itself isn't located at the front of it, but it's actually at the side of the computer, which it's not a bad idea really, although I prefer the Amiga position of having the keyboard connector at the front. It does have a mouse port on there, but unusually it supports an Amiga mouse, not a PC mouse. The graphics built in this machine are built into the motherboard, and it has CGA. It also has 40 column and 80 column as well as monochrome, and these are switchable by dip switches at the rear of the machine. It has 3 ISA slots. They are all 8-bit, as the 8088 is an 8-bit CPU. One cool feature of the Commodore PC20 is that it has a Faraday FE210 chip inside it, which you may not be familiar with, but this allows the computer to be switched on the fly from variable CPU speeds. So it can be in a standard IBM PC speed of 4.77 MHz, and that is achievable with Control Alt and S. If you press Control Alt and T, it switches to turbo mode, which is 7.16 MHz, and finally Control Alt and D switches to a mighty 9.54 MHz. And these are all selected by using the Commodore keyboard, and the computer will beep in an ever increasing pitch when you select a higher clock speed. The computer comes with 640K of RAM built into the motherboard, all soldered in, so there is no option of increasing that. I think you could find at the time 8-bit EMS cards which could give you more memory. This was Lotus developed RAM, which they increased for their spreadsheets, but don't quote me on that. The hard drive built into this machine, or the hard drive that came with this machine, is an XTA hard drive, which looks, to all intents and purposes, like an IDE drive. It will not work on a 286 or a 386, as it is just an 8-bit wide interface for the hard drive connection. So that's enough looking at the case. Let's go look at some software, have a play about in DOS, and see how quick or indeed how slow this computer is.